This is part 4 of the bar graph and histograms. Number 7 says the table displays salary for some of the highest paid professional football players. Each salary has been coded by rounding the salary to the nearest million and uses the numbers of millions as a code data value. For example, Larry Fitzgerald's salary was rounded to 7 million and is coded as 7. So you can see here we have Larry Fitzgerald. His salary was $6,999,574. They rounded it to 7 million and coded it as data number 7. So you can see how they did that for all of the football players. All right, looking at A, it says, is the data in the table categorical or quantitative? So we know that the data is going to be quantitative because we're basing it on numbers. It's the salary or the coded data. So we know that it's quantitative. B says state the minimum and maximum values for the data and the range of the data. So the minimum based off of the data table is 6 million. The maximum based off the data table is 19 million. The range is going to be from the smallest number to the highest number. So then we're going to take the middle number. So we're going to subtract, we're going to say 19 minus 16, and we get, I'm sorry, minus 6, not 16, and we get 13. So our range is 13 million because we're finding the center of our greatest salary minus our least salary to find the center, which is considered our range. On C says choose a bin width and a minimum value for your frequency table and your histogram. All right, so your answers may vary based off what bin width you chose and the beginning of the interval. So your bin width is going to be how large or how many bins you chose and the frequency of the table. So on ours, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different bins. And we're going to choose for the bin width to be from one line to the other. So however you would like to describe that is going to be right here. Then your frequency is going to be the number of players that are getting that salary in that bin. So we're going to go ahead and graph this data. All right, so we're going to start out by saying 5 to 8 million is going to, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. The frequency is 4. 8 to 11 million, there's 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 15. From 11 to 14 million, there's 4. I'm sorry, there's 5. Then from 14 to 17, there's 3. Then from 17 to 20, there's 1. So now we are going to create a graph. So this is a completely blank graph. You've not had to do one of these yet. Now, because we're doing quantitative data, we know it's going to be a histogram. Because histograms graph quantitative data. And we know that our bars are going to touch. All right, so let's graph this data. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to give our graph a title. So based off all the information that we have, we're going to name it salaries of highest paid football players. All right, so then we're going to need to figure out what our different bands we've already put in here. So I'm going to just label the first number on our graph. So I'm going to put it at 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 20. Now, if you chose different bands, like if you did 5 to 6, then 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, then yours would be the first number of those as well. Now, these numbers are salaries in $1 million. It's important that you put whatever your unit is. So like that's $5 million, $8 million. That way we know it's not like $5,000 or $500. So we've got our scale and our title for our x-axis. So now let's do our y-axis. So we know that our frequency, the highest is 20. So if we start down here and we go 0, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bars or 10 lines. So the easiest way we could divide these out is by 2's. So we're going to start at 0 here, and we're going to go to 20 up here. So we're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Now we need to give this a title. These numbers represent the number of players. So those numbers are the numbers of players that are getting these salaries. Now remember, in the very first video, we said we could turn our frequency table sideways, and it would tell us exactly what needs to go on the x-axis and the y-axis. So I turned it counterclockwise, 90 degrees, and it showed me that this was my x-axis, and this was my y-axis. So that means this is my independent variable. That is what is changing, right? My y-axis is what is responding. That's the number of players that are getting these salaries. So that is my dependent. That's my dependent variable. All right. So now we're going to graph the data. So from 5 million to 8 million, I have 4 players. So I'm going to graph my 4 players. Hey, you on the phone? All right, so from 8 million to 11 million, we are at 15. So we're going to be in between 14 and 16. From 11 to 14 million, we're at 5. So we're in between 4 and 6. From 14 to 17 million, we're at 3. So we're in between 2 and 4. Then from 17 to 20 million, we are at 1. So we're going to be very tiny down there. So there's no need for a key because we're only comparing those different bars or those different categories of salaries. So those quantitative numbers are going to be similar. So we do not need a key. So let's answer the bottom. Number E says, in which interval are the most of these high-paid football players located? So that interval for us is going to be 2. So that's going to be from 8 to 11 million. Interpret your answer in the context of this situation. So our interval F says only using the graph, in which interval is the median salary for the football players located? Justify your answer. All right, so this means that our median, remember median is going to be in the middle. So because we have 4 players and then 15 players there, we know that even after we add these up, so 5, 8, 9, we know that our median is going to be in the middle of right here. So that's where the middle number of players are going to be. All right, so the median is going to be Number 9 says write a paragraph for the newspaper describing what a histogram reveals about the salaries of the highly paid professional football players. So these answers will vary, but it could say something like most players, 15, have a salary from 8 million to less than 11 million. Only 4 players have from 5 million to less than 8 million, while 4 players make from 14 million to less than 20 million. It appears that the mean salary, which means the average salary, will be higher than the median, which is going to be 8 to 11, due to the few players who receive an abundance of money in their talents. So that could be a good paragraph that you would write about what basically the graph tells us.